Here's a painful, uncomfortable truth you may not have thought about. But think about it now, because I feel that every person who has ever been labeled a problem child can relate. This truth is that every family has a courtroom. But it is not in a building, it is in the family living room. And the trial does not start with a judge. It starts with silence. It starts with a sharp look from your mother, a sigh from your father, a disapproving look from your siblings. A room full of people waiting for someone to take the blame. And somehow, it is always the same child who is on trial, not because they are the worst of the bunch, but because they are the easiest to point at, because they are the one who doesn't quite fit in, because they are the family scapegoat. Maybe you know this scene very well. Maybe you can relate. Do you remember growing up when you walk into a room and the air changes? You make an error that a normal child would make and everyone pounces on you for being so careless. You speak your mind and suddenly you are the one that is too much. You stay quiet and now you are cold or ungrateful. Everything wrong in the family begins to feel like it belongs to you. So, you grow up thinking, I am the family problem child, and you have believed that for the longest of times. But what if the truth is the opposite? What if you were never the problem? What if you were just the one who made the problem visible? Sort of like you were the family mirror. Well, if you look at it that way, you would recognize that would be a problem, because most times, families do not like mirrors, because mirrors reflect the truth they are fighting so hard to hide. Let me give you 2 seconds to ponder that for a bit. Meanwhile, let's focus on you for a second. If you were the problem child in your family, or you were told so often that you were until you believed it, I need you to hear this, and hear it well. You were not the problem. In fact, you were the one who unconsciously protected your family from collapse. Shocking, right? I will explain in a bit, but you actually should be given an award rather than being berated as the family scapegoat or the family problem child. But let's say for a second that someone looking from the outside might actually interpret your behavior as being problematic. Maybe you talked back when adults told you to just be grateful. Maybe you slammed doors and walked out when you were being yelled at. Maybe you broke rules just to feel some control over your own life. Maybe you picked fights not because you loved chaos, but because at least chaos felt honest. And yeah, if someone only saw that part of you, they would probably agree with your family that you were a problem child. They would say, yeah, that kid is a problem child. But here is what they did not see. They did not see that you were not acting out for no reason. You were the only one in that family being honest. Because just like many families, your family was lying in quiet, everyday ways. They lied when they said, this is just how families are, even though something felt deeply wrong. They lied when they said, nothing bad is happening here, while everybody was walking on eggshells. They lied by minimizing. They lied by pretending. And you felt all of it. You felt the tension nobody named. You felt the anger nobody talked about. You felt the sadness nobody held. You felt the needs nobody met. So when you acted out, you were not being random. You were reacting to something real. You were responding to the truth your family refused to face. So rather than turning a blind eye like everyone else, you rebelled. Not because you were bad, not because you were disrespectful, not because you wanted trouble, but because you did not want to live in a house of lies. You did not want to smile while being hurt. You did not want to keep quiet just to keep the peace. Your rebellion started as a healthy thing. It was your nervous system saying, this is wrong, this is not safe, this is not okay. But in doing that, you opened yourself up to be labeled as the problem child, and your parents quietly liked having you as the scapegoat. When people said, you seem to have problems in your family, they pointed at your sibling and said, look at our good child, we are great parents. The problem is that one, pointing at you of course. And just like that, everything landed on your back. You became the place where all the blame went. Their anger, their shame, their failures, their guilt, their unresolved trauma. They dumped it all on you. Because if they made you the problem, they never had to face themselves. And the worst part is that, when you rebelled, you were just acting out what the family refused to fix. You were just the emotional voice of that house. And instead of being thanked for it, you were punished for it. Because remember, families hate mirrors. So they called you difficult. They called you crazy. They called you ungrateful. They called you the black sheep. More like giving a dog a bad name just to hang it. So, that's you as a child. Now let me show you what happens as you got older. I know everyone's experience is different, And as a psychologist, I have experienced different reactions from so-called problem children. But let me know your thoughts in the comments as we go along. So, what begins to happen in a problem child as they get into their teens is that they deaden their feelings, which will become a problem for them later in life. Killing one's emotions has never been a smart move, as we will see in a bit. So, that's the first problem. The next problem is that they get really rebellious and start questioning authority. I think it's just a way to lash out at their family indirectly. And as part of their problemness, they manipulate and intimidate people just to get what they want. So, on top of dealing with their families, they are struggling with their identity as the problem child and the family black sheep. And so the problem child, who started out as the family mirror, refusing to accept and condone a faulty family situation, has now become a problem to themselves and a little bit of a problem to society too. They don't even realize how sick they have become. So now as adults, people still pat them on the back for being tough and pushing limits. But if they want real health and real relationships, they have to let that identity go. Now here's a challenge that many have, and if you agree, just leave a comment and let me know. They think, if I let go of this role or this identity, then who am I? If I soften, will I get hurt again? If I stop fighting, will my needs finally be met, or will I be forgotten? That fear is real, whether you were the scapegoat, the hero, or the problem child. But here is the truth. You cannot get healthy without walking through that fear, and that is what healing is. Learning how to change so you can finally have real, safe, meaningful relationships and stop being perceived as the problem child. So what does healing actually look like for the problem child? Well, it starts with becoming honest in a new way. Honest about what you feel, honest about what scares you, honest about when you are reacting from the past instead of the present. It means pausing before you rebel, pausing before you push people away, pausing before you turn everything into a fight, and asking yourself, am I protecting myself right now, or am I repeating an old survival pattern? And the second step is learning how to feel again without drowning in it. Not stuffing your emotions down, not exploding them onto other people, but actually sitting with them, naming them. It means choosing calm over chaos, choosing safe people over familiar ones, choosing boundaries instead of walls, choosing therapy, journaling, support, or self-work instead of pretending you are fine. Little by little, you build a new identity. Not the bad one, not the problem child one, not the scapegoat one, just a real one. A person who does not have to fight to exist. A person who does not have to be extreme to be seen. A person who finally gets to live instead of just survive. Now let me say one final thing about the problem child, the family black sheep. You were just a mirror. You were shaped by a system that could not handle your truth. You became who you had to become to survive, and that makes sense. But what kept you alive back then is now what is keeping you stuck. And you do not need that armor anymore. You do not have to keep being the strong one. You are allowed to become soft without becoming weak. Healing does not mean you betray who you were. It means you finally give that child what they never got. And your life does not have to stay stuck in survival mode. You get to choose something better now. By the way, we are collecting subscribers to emotionally fund the next video, so thanks for your contribution.